listeners. Welcome back to NextGen TCG, the very poorly timed and scheduled Pokemon podcast talking about everything about the Pokemon TCG hobby. I am your host, Tetra Ninja, also known as Nick, and we have future Pokemon hobby mogul GemMintPokemon with us today. More on that a little bit later. We have been on a long hiatus, Zach. There's a lot going on. We have a lot to catch up on, lots of sales, lots of big news. Zack has started a new company. That's pretty much. I'm gonna put the blame on Zack. Honestly, Zack is the reason why we haven't recorded in a very long time. I'm throwing you underneath the bus, Zack. It's your fault.
I deserve it. We've literally booked this like 2 or 3 times a week for like 4 weeks straight. And it is just thing after thing after thing. And we're doing our best. We're happy to be here. We're happy to do a good show for you guys. And
well, I assume once things get settled with Zack's new project, I assume it could get worse. Actually, well, no one knows that things on the recording schedule will stabilize, but we'll find out in a couple months. But anyways, we have not been here since World, so I know we have a lot to talk about today. I'm looking at this Google Doc that's just like pages and pages long. We have a lot of news and stuff that's happened since our last recording. But I want the recap on Worlds. One more thing. Also, before we get to that, I know at the end of the last podcast we decided that we would try to get in a guest. We did have a guest lined up, but I know this for a fact because I've worked in YouTube for so long. It is very difficult. The more people you add to a project, it's very difficult to get people on the same schedule and available on the same time. So that was another reason we had a delay. So we just decided to press forward. When the guest happens, it will happen. But we just wanted to get back into the rhythm of recording things for you. So it was a scheduling difficulty. Is the reason why there is no guest today. But like I said, post Worlds, Zach, give me the skinny. How was Worlds in Hawaii this year?
Worlds was incredible, man. Dude, it was hot as could be. I mean, it was just everything you could possibly dream of.
Hawaii's hot? Nah. I don't believe you. I don't believe you.
I mean, the pineapple's pretty good. You definitely got to try the pineapple if you ever get out there. But no, we went to the Pokemon Center in the early days. We got some really cool merch and stuff. I always like to, grab a skateboard or a jersey. I usually wear the jerseys all around. The Japanese jerseys, like one of my favorites from Worlds the year before. And then, really throughout the event, you just get to go see the players, see the atmosphere, just feel the spirit. It's all pro Pokemon. This year's the first year they had vendors there. They had 5 vendor little booths kind of up and stowed away. They had a big trade room. They had a history of Pokemon where they went through all the different worlds and they walked through each year with a play mat, some Worlds merch. And so it's like, when you get merch from this year, I like to just kind of preserve it and keep it pristine and look at it 10 years like this. They literally had a display of all the merch over the years. And I thought that like literally was my favorite part of Worlds.
They stole your museum idea.
Actually, the museum would have looked like that. That's what the museum would have looked like. Is almost exactly what they did.
You should give Nintendo some of their own medicine and sue them. But more on that a little bit later. So vibe check though, like this is like I think this is the 3rd time that Worlds has been in Hawaii. Not officially. I think officially it's the 2nd time. The first one was like a tropical mega battle. First off, did you buy me anything?
I think I got you a couple Worlds.
No, you didn't buy this guy did not buy me anything.
What was I supposed to get you? Was I supposed to get you something particular?
You're supposed to get me a trainer jersey. That was our agreement at the end of the last episode.
I have. Okay. I will double check and see if we have an extra large. Okay. My gosh.
Oh, wow.
I think I got you a play mat. I usually buy you play mats. That's usually what I get you.
No.
I got you like a sweet community play mat.
Okay,
I will find you one. I will find you one.
That will suffice as well. But anyways, so like I said, 3rd time Worlds has been in Hawaii. How would you compare it to last year's Worlds in Japan?
I think last year, like we had a lot of late nights. I feel like this year we had a lot of early mornings. Like everyone was calling me at like 5 a.m., 6 a.m. to do stuff. And I think we were working for the hotel room for a couple hours before we even went into Worlds. But this year was interesting because, last year, like we were pursuing trophy cards. We're trying to buy pretty heavy and this and that. And this year, like there was so much competition for it. And there were so many people trying to kind of get on the same team or this or that, trying to, there were 12 copies of every trophy card. that I basically just say, I just took a step back and said, hey, I want to enjoy the finals. I'm just going to watch. And I literally watched the finals. I enjoyed it. And then when it was over, I walked out. Didn't take anything on the way out, literally just walked out. And in the middle of that, I actually bought the card that I'm going to show today, my card of the episode. I'll show you guys later. But it just, the trophy market is as competitive as it can be. And there's some politics that kind of go on here and there. And it's just like, to me, it's like there's 12 copies. Like if you really want one, you'll get one. Just be patient. Don't try to double the price for nothing.
Prices wise, comparison to last year, higher, lower, about the same?
The people who typically buy were offering lower because the amount of copies had doubled. Although the first and second place in some instances were going almost as high as they were for Japan. The third and fourth were going at very good rates, from what I could tell. I didn't really see any of those breaking the Japanese prices. The third and fourth were going for 35K in Japan. Here, I think they all went lower than that, and they may have resold it at the 35K plus range. But some of the ones from Japan, I think I heard a story of one of them being flipped for 60K or something crazy. So, I think everyone just understands, you double the quantity on something that's supposed to be rare, and it's just there's not as many buyers. So I think a lot of people try to be patient. Those that missed out, there was some monopoly on like the fourth place trophies, and the thing is when you have a team of Unite that like literally wins, there's 5 of the same copy that all goes to like a team they usually sell to one person. It makes it a little bit harder. So I mean, everyone's got what they're chasing, this and that. You just have to respect the market and kind of you got to figure out how to work with it. The market always gives you something new. You got to figure out how to work it.
Wait, just for clarification, they gave Unite players cards this year?
They gave Unite and Pokemon Go. So when the trophy is doubled, it used to just be TCG VGC.
Yeah.
This year, Unite got it. And since there's 5 players in the Unite team, all 5 players got a trophy card. So if you got first place, you got 5 new first place trophies that are now in the market for people that don't care about cards. Like they just like sell, or typically the non-Japanese people will sell, I guess.
That's big. That's big that they literally doubled the amount of Worlds cards being awarded this year, especially to people who don't play the TCG or are not involved in the hobby of collecting cards at all. That's a big deal. I didn't know about that. I thought this year it was kind of just status quo, that only the video game as well as the TCG got the trophy cards. As you can probably tell, I was not following Worlds that closely this year with the baby coming on, but that's really cool. Just setup wise, like I'm assuming Hawaii themed. How did they do it this year?
It was literally the scuba mask Pikachu. So you walk in, you had this, that everywhere. You had a prize wall, different type of play mat. You had all kinds of like EVs everywhere, like the jumbo Pokemon, this and that. They definitely had some things that were harder to, it seems every Worlds, there's always things that sort of disappear that shouldn't disappear. And this year things were a little bit more secure, let's just say. So I think everything that was there is still there as far as the production. But it was beautiful, man.
We call it the Scuba Chew. That's what the Pokemon Go, the Scuba Chew. That's what the Pokemon Go community designated it as. I know a lot of people were grinding for that shiny Scuba Chew. It was boosted though if you play Pokemon Go. But yeah, it looked pretty cool. But I'm glad that you made it back safe from Worlds. You had a good time. Other than that one card that you bought that was going to show up in Collector's Corner. Any other deals? You spend money on any other things other than at the Pokemon Center?
Yeah, I mean, reckoning a trade night, they rented out like the floor of a hotel, and then there was a lot of trading there. There was a lot of people trading outside the venue, where it's like the funny part about Pokemon Centers, you had to go up this like 2 sets of stairs outside. Then everyone that was leaving had to carry these big old bags like down 2 sets of stairs. So it's like not only are you getting whatever, you're trying to like literally leave, like walk a mile back to your hotel with all that. And then right down the stairs along the river, there was a ton of people buying, selling, a ton of vendors, a lot of good deals. You find a lot of people that'll save stuff, and at Worlds they'll sell it. And these are not like vendors or people at Collecticon or like dealers. A lot of them are just the people who built this stuff up over the year from Europe or Asia or wherever they may be from, and they come and they sell for pretty reasonable prices. You can find a lot of really fair deals or things that like as collectors we may really value, like a stamp card or a card with like a low print or this or that, or something that's just not as available over here. and they a lot of times those people will try to make pretty fair deals. You will find the vendors that hustle and drive the price up, but you will find some really good deals. And I think we had a big crew of people that was constantly rotating in and out, just seeing what people bought here and there, and everyone I thought had a great time. And Hawaii's got some good food too, man. We definitely went out and had Hawaiian chicken a couple times.
Nice, nice, nice. Well, glad to have you back.
Yeah.
There's this topic. All right, we have a backlog of market trends because Zach, you haven't talked about the market. We haven't talked about the market in a minute now. Lots of stuff,
Yeah.
lots of stuff has been happening in the market since we last recorded. Let's go big. Let's start big. So, first off, Sotheby's X Fanatics. I know Sotheby's. I know Sotheby's as a high end. They don't well, they do exist, but they're not as big in Canada. But they generally deal in like higher end real estate. Then we all know what Fanatics is. So what is Sotheby's X Fanatics? Explain that to the people.
Yeah, so Sotheby's is one of the elite auction houses. They'll auction the $500 million painting from the Renaissance, or Michelangelo, or this or that, and they're just sort of that next level up. I mean, it's like heritage, but only the super super high end. They don't do anything that's sort of below a certain amount, and they're very prestigious in their own right, but they're also very tough as far as just negotiating this and that. Like if you were to submit something to Sotheby's, I'm going to assume they have a 25% buyer's premium. They keep all that. You don't get any of it. Whereas if you auction with, Goldin, Fanatics, or anyone else, you'll get a portion of that buyer's premium back, 10, 15%. And so they're kind of the big dogs. They know it, and they can kind of demand whatever they want. So there was an elite auction that had, I think, 48 or 50 items in it that was, live. Might have been from New York City or something, and there's a lot of big bidders in a room, and it was basically a partnership with Fanatics, which we used to know as PWCC, so it's now Fanatics, and it was pretty cool. So they had a couple of Pokemon things in there. I think the Pokemon things performed very poorly, simply because the estimated bids were nearly double what all the cards were, and then when they went live, really there were no bids on any items. I ended up throwing a bid in on one of the items just because I thought it was a silly deal, and then it's another auction house for you to follow. That's what it is.
So what's the contribution of Fanatics? What do they get out of it, since they constantly run their premier auctions as well as their weekly auctions? What are they contributing to this relationship?
I think Fanatics is the one that knows the space. It's into it, that has the ins and outs. I don't think Sotheby's has the experts or anyone that really would know the intricate details of this. They don't really have a TCG department per se, whereas like their art department is probably the best of the best in the world. And so partnering with Fanatics allows them to auction items that are in that that several $100,000 range. Even though that's typically pretty far below what they auction, it allows them to kind of have that partnership. And so they really don't work without each other. Fanatics with the TCG space, but Sotheby's brings in another range of buyers. To me, it's kind of odd because, like, okay, you go to Sotheby's for the prestige and this and that, and all of your buyers, like, your sellers net less money. But like, are you really going to pull in more buyers? That buyer that exists with Sotheby's, is he not already, did he not already know about Premier Auction or Fanatics or this or that? Just, I don't know. I feel like the internet and everything's so like everyone's so connected these days. I don't really see how many more buyers would have come in with that partnership. But it is cool. It is cool. I don't know if it makes sense for the sellers.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. So these next three cards are from that collaboration between Sotheby's and Fanatics. So first off, we have a CGC9 Akabane autographed illustrator. I think was autographed on the case? It was on the case, right? Pretty sure this one was on the case.
It was on the card.
It was on. Oh, this one was on the card. Okay, that changes things. All right, so CGC9 Akabane illustrator finishing off at 360K. First off, you want to tell everyone who Akabane is, because he is not the he's not the illustrator of the illustrator. He's not the artist. Who is he? Who is he? Why did he decide this card?
Yeah, so Takumi Akabane, a lot of people were like, why would you get a card signed that's not the illustrator? Well, he's one of the founding members of Pokemon. His name has come up a lot recently, mostly because a couple years ago he decided to sell part of his collection, and then due to some health issues, and then he sort of recovered, but he still has some things going on. And he's really kind of been more open to the public and talking where, Akabane doesn't work for Pokemon anymore, or creatures, Game Freak, any of the sort of people, this and that are over in Japan. He's not associated with them anymore. And so it's easier for him to come out and talk. Now, it is sort of, taboo and this and that to kind of, it is sort of against culture to kind of do things like that in Japan. But he's been a lot more open. That's why you're seeing a lot of cards come from his collection. That's why you're seeing, a lot of cards being signed by him. That's why you're seeing him meeting other collectors. That's why you're seeing him being more active in the space, is simply because I think he's kind of breaking away from the cultural norms and becoming more present. To get back on point, this illustrator was signed by Akabane at an event with several other collectors that had a number of other cards signed too. And I think a card integrated CGC 9. So CGC had a representative there per what they say. And so it's a big card. I think the final bid was $300K. Then ended up going for $360 with buyer's premium. So the seller would have got the $300. Sotheby's get $60K. And it's kind of crazy, right? So how do you feel about that sale? Do you feel that price is right, or is that price wrong?
It's hard to tell because as we've probably seen, PSA 9 and CGC 9 are not viewed equally in our hobby. PSA 9, if this was a PSA 9 that finished off at 360, I think both of us would think that would be kind of low for that price point. And then the autograph is polarizing, right? Because you kind of it's a polarizing decision. I don't even know who in the right mind gets an illustrator signed. I couldn't even fathom that idea of having an illustrator sign, especially not by the artist. So I don't know if that was honest, if you're maximizing profits. I don't know if that's something that you should have done. What are your thoughts on that? First off, pop quiz. Who's the actual artist of the illustrator?
I was gonna say Nishida, but I feel like that's wrong. Oh my gosh, I think it's an S. Starts with an S. Who is it? I cannot.
Always follow your gut instinct. You were right.
Nishida?
It's a Nishida. It's a Nishida artwork. Yeah. So it just makes more sense. Anytime you start adding these different elements to it, it doesn't make sense, man. But anyways, just to get back into the reason why he was able to sign, because he's not officially employed by Nintendo anymore, because Nintendo makes sure that all their artists these days that are currently active and still under contract to work for Pokemon, they have to follow strict guidelines of when and where they can sign things. So I don't know. Yeah. What's your vibe? What do you think of the price?
I think PSA 9 would have been $550 to $600K. I think CGC 9 at that $300K. The 350 is spot on. I think this went for slightly above what I would see a CGC 9 going for. I'd probably 325, 330-ish. There are public comps of 2.8s and 8.5 around that 200 range. There are private comps that are higher, but public versus private has kind of always been the debate with these big cards. So the 9, I do feel the auto added some value. I think at the end of the day, it probably added 20 to 30K value. I think the seller, may have been able to. They probably ended up net the same, is what I guess. Pre-auto, post-auto. I don't know how much it costs to, fly out and get the auto and stuff. But I will say the public perception, without knowing all the details, this and that, was, why did you get someone to sign a card that's not on the card? And I heard that more from big buyers asking me what I thought about it, this and that. And I heard more pushback. I kind of expected some, but I kind of felt more from people just that it was odd, I guess you could say. But if you're calling Akabane one of the founding members of Pokemon, then it makes sense to, do you get 5 of them? There's 100 plus illustrators out there, so it's not like it's a 1 of 39 card. And so, it's not as rare as I think people used to think it was.
All right, next card at this conglomeration of major auction houses. We have CGC Pristine Charizard finishing off, CGC 10 Pristine Charizard, first edition, finishing off at basically the kind of the basement level price of what first edition PSA 10s is costing right now. Feels like someone's just maintaining that 175, 180 threshold, and to see a CGC Pristine 10, which is supposed to be, and most people would argue, a higher quality card than a PSA 10, to finish off at basically what a PSA 10 finishes at, especially a thick stamp. I would kind of consider that a little bit of a loss, in my personal opinion. Or if I was a seller, I probably wouldn't be as thrilled. I would just expect, if I was the seller, I would be hoping for at least 225, 2.25 mil, 2.25, in terms of my price of what I was looking for. I don't know. What's your thought process?
So first, big shout out to my boy Wolfie, the guy that got this card graded. I was at the National. I wasn't there with him when he got it graded, but I was there the day he got it graded. And, big shout out. That's a massive grade. I think he knew it was a beautiful card, and getting that pristine is pretty nuts. It's pretty nuts. And then he went and got the gold label from NBA, which is just kind of that secondary opinion, basically saying, hey, like this, he thought this card was great. We also think this card is great. Just an extra fee to kind of get to that point. So I think that also helped with that 180 price point. So big win, massive congrats to Wolfie, Warner. And so if you kind of take a step back from that and you look at the actual comparables, the CGC 10 is like 30 to like 42K range. It's been trending more closely to that 40K range. And so if you think like 4X that as this pristine price, like that sounds pretty good. I mean, you're not quite at the black label multiplier, but that seems pretty good to me. Then you had a lot of PSA 10s and CGC pristines going for same prices, which I know Jesse Pang, one of my good friends, basically is like, dude, why does CGC pristines go lower than PSA 10s a lot of time? And this is a case where you could argue this is right at that PSA 10 price, if not a little below. I know a couple first set base Zards have sold below that 180K. I've sold 2 above it in the last year, so it's kind of one of those things that's like, pick where you want to be at. But this price actually feels very, very in line for a public auction price, of which we have never seen a CGC Pristine first set Zard at auction. Now, the private sales of these, there are 2 private sales of these that went significantly higher. I'll just say it is, think about how high you think it is and just go higher. That's the private sale of this card. But again, going back to that debate of private sale versus public sale. And so the public sales are, people like to stick to those because it's in a controlled environment where people are forced to pay. And, if it's if someone doesn't pay, it's noted, right? So this is one of those things where, and, I don't want to beat Wolfie up, but I know he had a private offer that was higher than this. And I know that he wanted to do the Sotheby's route and send it to auction. And I'm really happy for him that this ended up being significantly more than it would have been if it was a PSA 9 or even a CGC 10 that wasn't a pristine. I think Wolfie crushed it, but again, it's the bird in the hand versus 2 in the bush, and you can kind of see the difference in the private versus public. So definitely give some heavy consideration to those private offers if you have a really strong one.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I wouldn't be happy. I wouldn't be happy with 180 on a CGC Pristine 10. That's just me. I just gonna put that out there, and we'll just move on. I know.
You would want more,
I would want way more. And I would just like hang on at that point, unless you're just like over leveraged and you just have to sell. But yeah, it doesn't make sense in my head. But moving on, we have another CGC Pristine 10. We have the Alpha Prototype Pika, actual Alpha Prototype, so no color. So 204K. I'm very ignorant to the Alpha market, but I feel like for a card that's just kind of like emerged recently, to get over 200, I would consider that like a huge win. If I was the seller of this card, I know it's a pristine 10, and that's an awesome grade. But I just feel like this card doesn't have like that history quite yet. I know it's like obviously there is history to the card, but it's just recently popped up. So I feel like if you were the seller of this card, I would be ecstatic at 204K.
I'm ecstatic as well. The 200K is like a crazy price for the seller if you were the seller. I think when it comes to finance and marketplace, when we talk about different things, I think everyone here knows that the more risk something has, the lower the price it should be. And so if this was truly like a 101 Alpha Pika, this is the only thing it'd be, it's easily a $10 million card. Easily. But because there's all this ambiguity, this risk, this and that, there's more than one copy that's already been noted, this and that. You have that risk play that sort of pushes that price down. And this is either going to end up being the steal of the century, or it's going to be wasted 200K. So when you take the card away from the equation and you think about the fact that someone just paid $200,000 for this card, that's a lot of money. That's rent for like 10 years for most of it. That's crazy. And so it's something that's the risk is being calculated here. So I agree with you. I think the seller crushed it. I think there were also private offers that may have been higher than this. So again, public versus private. I feel we keep coming back to that. But again, the public never lies. So, well, we won't get into that. But I feel like this is a very, like, you know what I mean? I think this is a crazy. I don't think anyone would have really picked this price. I don't think many people are picking this price for this card.
Just as comparable of what we know, what trophy cards go for, what illustrators go for, I feel like this card has a very high potential of the floor falling out from underneath it long term. So I think that the fact that they got 200K now in hand is something, because I think there's a higher likelihood that the market crashes on this card than the ceiling being higher. So I know it's a CGC Pristine 10. It doesn't get much better than that. But in terms of risk reward, I think that if you were trying to buy this card, the risk if you were trying to sell it is much higher right now. So I think, like I said, you should be ecstatic.
CGC's got all this love, man. Sotheby's just CGC. It's like, where's PSA at? I thought PSA was the one with all the market share and this and that. Why don't you have PSA? I don't know. I'm just pointing it out. But one other quick example I want to make is, the no number Top Sun card that sold for like 500K, the Charizard. And then it went all the way down to like 20K or 60K or something.
Oh, yeah.
Before it fell out. Like, I feel like when we look at this card, the next time we see it, it will not be 200K.
No, it won't be.
Like, it will be something else. Like, it will not stay at that price.
All right, so that wraps up the major things from the Sotheby's auction. Let's move on to a more traditional auction house, Fanatics Collect. So we have a bunch of alpha and beta presentation cards. So the alpha cards that I'm about to list they weren't graded with a number. They were all deemed authentic, given the authentic grade. So I'm going to just run numbers by you, and then you kind of just shake your head agreeingly, because I'm not lying to you. So we have the Charizard, 33.6K. We have a Mewtwo finishing off at 8.7K. Venusaur, 7.8K. Blastoise, 9.9K. Moving on to beta presentation cards, CGC once again. These cards were actually given grades. So we have the Charizard at an 8, finishing off at 99K. A Mewtwo 10, CGC 10, finishing off at 25.5K. And then a random Clefairy finishing off at 12K. So that's a lot of numbers. I don't know anything about alpha and beta presentation cards, so I'm going to let you take the lead. What do you think about these prices, and something that's kind of just new and emerging in terms of the relation to the rest of the hobby and where we're at?
Yeah, I mean, I think the market is trying to figure out where to place these. I think everyone recognizes there's a lot of risk with these. I think a lot of the buyers are the collectors that just have that FOMO, that don't want to lose these for their collection. I don't think there's many speculators that are buying these at auction. The sources of these cards, the guys selling them, are asking a boatload per card on these. Thousands and thousands of dollars for even just the regular Pokemon. I think the Zard, they were quoting like, 60K or 100K just for like a raw copy, like well below auction prices. And the 8 Zard that sold the presentation for 99, Nito was pushing that on his Instagram, saying that, hey, this is from the magazine. It was supposed to be a 1-on-1 when he bought it. It's the exact copy. A lot more provenance. It's not coming from the same sources that were coming out today. And so, like, that copy kind of maybe had a little bit more allure and a little bit more provenance than, I guess, the other copies that are here. But what I also notice here is the beta presentations are going at a premium to the alpha. And so the alpha don't have a background. Behind the card, it's literally just the card art that Ken Sugimori drew. And the betas actually have sort of the background behind the card. with the Zard having colors, this and that. And so what's odd to me is like people usually go rookie, rookie, rookie. They go like to the most rookie version of an item, and then they say that's like the champion, this and that. But the beta presentations and the name itself, it's saying like, hey, this is not the first, but like yet they're going for more money. I do find that kind of interesting because everything that I know about the amount of these exist and how many are available and sort of what's being held back versus what's in the public versus what you can buy right now, they're all the same. Like I don't think any of these really have any difference in availability or pop. Like there's no card that is like only 3 copies versus 6 copies. Like these all to me I think have the same amount of availability. um, I've never seen it, my experience, I guess you'd say.
So I just proposed something out there. So long term, what do you think would have been better? Because we've established like these cards literally just popped up a couple months ago. If
Yeah.
you were trying to maximize value for these cards, is it better based on like the quantities that you know of to try to push them out as quickly as possible, or kind of try to, that little bit of a teaser where, oh, this exists, kind of just like put a picture of it like in the background and just kind of like hide it away for a couple of years, and then people are just like thinking, where did that card go? Well, where are these cards? We saw pictures of these cards, but we have no idea where these are now. Show up a couple of years later, everyone goes crazy that these cards are back. I almost feel like the fact that the turnaround of these cards was so quick that it kind of inhibited their maximum value at this time.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to give a disclosure here in a little bit, but let me answer your question, then I'll give the disclosure. So these cards, selling them as quickly as you can is the absolute worst way to do this. It is horrible pushing these on the market in a way that you show all this availability, this and that. And really, from what I understand, there's only really 3 sets that are available that are liquid, exchanging hands in the market, going back and forth. And yes, there are other sets that exist, but they are not available. They are in a private collection that is not for sale. And I think the people who were selling these cards have realized that they probably messed up in how they release these to the world. And they realized that, oh, snap, this card that we wanted to be 25K is now worth 5K because, the way they're being sold. So if I had full control over the entire pop, this and that, like, I think you ultimately have to set some sort of market price. I don't really agree with like trying to push collector prices higher, this and that. I think you got to let the collectors sort of determine what they are. I think you have to auction, a set of cards to kind of get whatever that liquid like sort of price is. But I do think that initial price is usually the lowest. And the example I'll give you is a creatures deck. The first creatures deck that ever sold was probably the lowest creatures deck that has sold since then. And every subsequent deck, individual cards has gone up and up and up. Now it's changed a little bit now that we've had like 10 to 20 these decks come out. The creature deck price is coming down, but it was like that first to market was like everyone's like, what is this? Is this real? Like, why are these prices so high? Like, this came out this year. Why is this a 10K Charizard? And then now it's gone up, and now it's kind of settled as more come out. So I think what's going to happen with these is the people who are hot hands trying to get them out. I think they're going to probably be some of the lowest prices because I know what these guys are selling these for, and they're selling them for more than what the auctions are. And I think once they settle into the hands, the Clefairy collector has his 3 Clefairies and, this and that, and they're not as available. I think the market will stabilize and you'll either see growth or everyone's going to speculate. There's always going to be people that say, hey, these are fake. There's always going to be people that say, like, these are the alpha, the real, the Messiah, the Pokemon. Like, it's the one all be all. But the thing is, like Akabani is the only person that really knows. And unless he's just straight up lying about all this stuff, these are the real deal. So that's the way I see it. I don't know. Do you think he's lying, man? Like that's my conclusion.
I don't know. We'll shelve the full disclosure for Collector's Corner because we have other things to talk about that will kind of make sense once we reach that segment of our podcast because you want to talk about other things. Let's just continue on with the Fanatics Collect. PSA 10 Masters Key, 55K, pretty in line if you consider what other trophies cards sell for these days. PSA 9 Trophy Kang finishing off at 66K. What vibe check on those two prices? I think the key's pretty much what I expect. I can't gauge of what a PSA 9 Trophy Kang goes for these days. I know that we were talking. I think a 10 sold for like 125, 150 a couple months
Yeah.
ago. So is 66 for 9? You think correct?
Feels good. It feels like it could have been lower. That's so happy. I feel like it could have been
It
lower.
could have been lower. That,
Like
that is the
60.
best. That is the best critique I've ever heard.
I think a lot of people probably want 75, but again, when you throw some at auction, you get humbled real quick. And 66, I'd be happy with 66 if I auction that.
Yeah. All right. So it could have been lower. That's Zach's opinion. All right. Moving on. PSA 10 trio set of 2002 Spring Battle Road. What's cool about these is that I don't know if you know this, but they were all sequential certs. So they were all graded at the same time, probably most definitely from the same collector. These are not, well, they could still be extra copies, but these ones actually do have the winner's name on them. So they were intended to be awarded out. So the number one finishing off at 93, the number two finishing off at 69, and the number three finishing off at 66. I'd say in this kind of like that specific era of vintage trophy cards, I think it's fair to say that these are the least sought after and the least quote unquote valuable. If you want to talk about trophy Pikas as well as SSBs as well as tropical mega battles. So I think that price range, I don't know, 2 and 3 are a little bit low, I think, for my taste. One thing I wanted to ask you though is before you kind of give your input on the prices of things. Like I said, these were sequential certs and they were in the older cases, pre Lighthouse, pre Fugitive Ink, pre holographic era. Is there I know you have to pay PSA about a ton of money to recase these types of cards, but do you think that they would have benefited from being recased to kind of increase that eye appeal of the cards?
Percent. I think there's times I've sold big cards that I didn't recase, and I'm like, man, I should have paid that $100 to recase because the card just looks better. I've had cards that look like there's stuff on the card, and it's literally just an old case that PSA just was using something they should have been using. And yeah, I think if you have any card over like 5K that doesn't look good, like you should get it recased. Like I think you're gonna net more than the cost to recase it.
And just so recase those heavy hitters, everyone listen to Pokemon Mogul Zack and recase those big boys. Just in terms of pricing, what do you think of the value of those cards and what they finished off at?
I thought it felt pretty strong. So I just, like you said, I think they're kind of the weaker, trophies that exist. I mean, like I know you said the 2 and 3 felt a little low. Like to me, it just feels like a little high because I know there's some number one 24 and stuff that are having trouble moving in the 70K mark, 5K mark. So it's like when I look at like that compared to this, it's like I don't know. It's just I feel like everything relates, and it's like if you can justify something, you can't justify something else. It's like it feels a little weird. With these, I feel like maybe they could have been a little lower. So
All right, moving on. So we have a foundational card. We have a PSA 10 first edition Blastoise finishing off at 21K. I'm gonna tell everyone right now. Everyone listen to me. Now is not the time to be auctioning WotC high-end cards. It is not a good time to be doing that. So this card, I'd say, I think at its height, 50K, 50K, but 21K is just extremely. It's not good. I just feel like it's not good. I'm not like up to date with like comparables or right now what they auction off at, but I'm just saying now it's not the time to be auctioning high end WotC cards. What's your opinion?
I just said a full set of based auction. Maybe you should have told me that before. Whoopsies. Yeah, no, I said crystals, shinings. I said a lot of cool stuff to auction. So we'll get to that later. But yeah, whoops. Good luck, guys. You're gonna get some deals.
All right. Okay. So okay, just elaborate. Like, agree, disagree. Like,
I think 21K for a Blastoise is a killer deal because I mean, of course, I'm biased, because I've got some at auction, but I think they actually end on Thursday, so that's the other wild part about it.
Okay, but do you think like 20K or 19K, good price, value price, good buy, bad?
And it's a good value. I think it's a
Yeah.
great value price. I
So
mean,
so if you're
to
the
me, I think
buyer,
it's a
you're happy.
25K. I think it's a 25K card. I think you see 18K on the low end for Blastoise, and that's for like a not a good copy. And so, like, if this copy looks half decent, like 21K is like long term, you're not going to care if you bought it 18, 21, 25. You're like, I'm glad I bought it.
Okay, all right. We have one of the most expensive Venusaurs that I've ever seen. We have a PSA 10 Black Star Venusaur finishing off at 19.2K, population 9, so a pop 9 card. You want to give a guess of what the PSA 9 pop of that card is?
PSA 9, I'd
Yeah.
say, I would say 2,500.
That's actually not that bad. I just looked it up right now. It is as I record this 314. So
Wow.
very difficult card to grade to get a PSA 10. I assume that you have one because somewhere Zack has one. So yeah, tough grade, much like the Black Star EV. Very difficult to get in a 10. I think I'm not sure though on the price of this. What do you feel at 19.2K in the PSA 10 for this card?
I think it's pretty fair. I mean, I do. I mean, like, it's one of those cards, like when it was Pop 6, I thought like should have been way higher price, but it's been stable in that 25, 20K. I mean, I'm sorry, the 15 to 20K range. And so it's like to get 19 and now it's a Pop 9. Like, I'm like, I think it's doing pretty good. It has that low pop premium. It is a sick card. It's a beautiful Venusaur. It does grade really poorly. A lot of the copies are pretty beat up, and so if like that's a true like 10, it like looks really good. Like, I could see it deserving it, from the rarity, like gradability standpoint. But again, a lot of these were out there. There's a lot of these that were produced. This card's a very popular card, but I don't know. It feels like a nice price. Like, if it was 16, I would believe that too.
So it has the CD promo artwork. If you guys understand Japanese, and if you want it, I probably post a picture of the card as well. All right, so that wraps up our friends over at Fanatics Collect. Let's move on to a couple cards, interesting cards coming up at Goldin. Once again, we have there, something new always pops up in this hobby all the time. We have dual-sided cards, Zach. So there's a Pokemon on either side of the cards. So we have a dual combo of a Blastoise and Venusaur, CGC 9, finishing off at 17K. And then we also have a Venusaur / Charizard combo finishing off at 19.5K, CGC 8.5. What I thought immediately was, if they would have swapped Charizard with either a Blastoise or a Mewtwo, that card would have been so much better. I feel like Venusaur is like dragging Charizard down, It just
Yeah.
it's just like in terms of like species popularity. I feel like the Venusaur is kind of holding Charizard back in this case.
It would have been the perfect card for Gary. Everyone knows him as King Charizard or King Pokemon, but his favorite Pokemon is actually Venusaur of all things. So it would have been his perfect card. See the Charizard on the front, Venusaur on the back.
All right, so where did these cards come from?
Again, they came from the source, Akabane, and so leaked out through the brokers into the hobby. I think another challenge with these is I think they thought these were going to be worth a lot more, simply because they're holographics, this and that, but they just kind of came off as fake, kind of like Legendary Collection cards when they first came out. They just come across as like, oh, it's a little weird. Not my research, but other people's research has come to conclude that it's probably when they were testing the Ancient Mew card, because the hollow foil on the front and the back match, and it's kind of a double-sided hollow. It would make sense that they would use something they already had, which was, of course, the base set Charizard or the base set, holographic cards. And so I think when people kind of came to realize, like, hey, these are not like prototypes for like base set. These are more like prototypes for like a hollow foil pattern that just happen to have base set on them. And I think the consensus is they were probably printed after the fact. Like probably, not before base set release, or not, trying to figure this out. So they're cool cards. I think this is a really high price for them. I can tell you the price they're selling for privately is, initially it was higher than that. But I assume they came down a little bit. These are some that I'm kind of surprised at the price they hit, simply because these are not one-on-ones. There are multiples of every card available.
So one of those situations again that we talked about earlier about risk reward of letting these kind of cards marinate in kind of like in the shadows, or trying to get them to market as quickly as possible. I'm not certified or having experience of these types of things, because I hold on to cards forever, way longer than I should have. I should have sold some cards that I eventually sold a little bit earlier, just to maximize their value. But I feel like, once again, maybe a little bit of time to marinate would have been better for these cards. But that's Golden auctions. I auctioned a couple of cards as well in the last Fanatics Premier auction. First time experiencing a premier auction, actually. First time that I have submitted cards to a premier auction. So I auctioned off, one finished off at, it was the Daisuke Espeon PSA 10. Beautiful card. Kind of has that has the prime artwork on it. That finished off, what do I have here? At 12.9K. Pretty happy with that price. Paid $400 for it, so that's a good turnaround, a good reinvestment, way above my 4 times return that I always try to seek. The second one, the auction finished, but it hasn't been paid for yet, because I don't have that money yet in my Fanatics wallet account. But that is the Zoroark 4th grade illustration contest card. Finished off at 17K basically. Once again, has not been paid for quite yet. I think I was actually very happy with that price, especially the Espeon. I think the Espeon, that's like the highest. I think the max card finished off at 14K on alt. And based on where we are right now in the hobby, I was very happy with 12.9. The maximum, I think the Zoroark, I think Pokemon specific set like the benchmark for that card. I think it topped out at like 25K, and that was just like, that's before like Zoroark cards like exploded, because it wasn't even included in it wasn't a premier auction. It was actually just a regular weekly auction, and that card went to the moon. So from 25 at max value down to 17, I was pretty happy with, but once again, still not paid for. So we'll see how that goes.
25 is crazy. So I've got a question for you, Nick. Do you think it wasn't paid because a 4th grader won it?
I don't know, man. There's some really rich 4th grade Chinese people out there. It's just
I don't know. Well, if a 4th grader won the illustration contest, I figured maybe it's a lot of money for him.
For the illustration by a 4th grader for that card almost makes me feel like someone else drew that card and he just submitted it as a 4th grader, because there's a lot going on that card. There's like so many legendary Pokemon going on in that card, which is probably why it's pretty. But there is a card in that set. There's a card that I actually favor a little bit more. But I'm going to be hanging on to that card for a bit. But like I said, I was happy with 17K. I'm just hoping that it eventually does get paid for. Otherwise, you'll see it pop up at the next premier auction. That was old cert too. I didn't listen to my old advice. I didn't get it recased. I didn't get it reslabbed. No holographic, no fugitive ink. Just old school cert. No security features. Maybe I should have done that. Anyways,
you want a little tidbit of information I was listening to as you're going there. At least there's at least one example of an illustration card that I know where the actual person that won was not like a kid. It was like someone like way older. And so I thought that was kind of wild. And I don't even think Pokemon knows that. It just kind of came out years later. And we're like, oh shit, that's kind of like crazy. And then I know for this last illustration contest, there's a lot of AI art and this and that, and people are getting in trouble for using AI to create these beautiful like pieces. But the really, really cool part is that the winners of like the illustration contest, like for this most recent year, they actually got this like physical like trophy that's like gold, and It's like something else. It's like a card. It's I don't know. There's a reel that Pokemon posted announcing the winners. And it's like beautiful. Like that thing, I think is going to be collectible. And I remember we were looking at it like 11 p.m. leaving like Cards HQ after Atlanta Collecticon, and we were just like, dude, this is sick, man. This is. I mean, we got to look this up because I think the people will love to see that.
Yeah.
Getting
Cool,
trophies.
cool. AI everything in the future. Invest in AI, ladies and gentlemen. And that brings us to the close of market trends. That was all market trends. So let's move on into main topics. We're gonna start with a little bit of an appetizer first. Some of the small stuff that's happened. Scarlet and Violet, Team Rocket set reborn. Zach, what is it? What is it?
This is going to be wild. I cannot wait for it. I cannot wait. We got the rumors are out there. Everyone's like, what's going on? This and that. There's going to be a rocket set. And then at Pokemon World's closing ceremony, they drop the Team Rocket R in the middle of the screen with thousands of people watching. We know it's coming. We know it's coming. We're just so ready for it. And I've heard friends, no one knows what it is, but I've heard friends speculate. They think it might be bigger than 151, which is the craziest thing I've heard anyone say. But the fact that someone said it still blows my mind. So I think when this set comes out, I mean, everyone always says the hype is here, like you should do the opposite, whatever. I think you go out and buy it and you go open it and you have fun and like, like maybe it's investable, this, that, but go enjoy that. Like we've not had a rocket set since like the EX era, man. Like this is a long time coming. I cannot wait for Team Rocket to return.
I'm not buying the hype. I'm not buying. I'm not buying what you're selling. I'm not buying what you're selling, Zach. Because you know why? Because I have history on my side. I have history and some what I'd like to think is knowledge. Because if you think about like WotC and just like how the rocket set sits in the echelon of WotC cards, I'd say it's kind of like in that Gym Heroes Gym Challenge background, dude. It's not like we have first ed here, Fossil, Gym, and then you somewhere in the middle, and then you have E Series, Sky Ridge, Aquapolis, Expedition. Then you have however you want to arrange it, Gym Heroes, Gym Challenge, and then you have Team Rocket. Just in terms of value, I'm just talking about monetary value. It's kind of bottom tier. It is bottom tier in terms of WotC. So I'm not buying the Team Rocket hype. I'm sorry, I can't buy it.
What about the Team Rocket case that came out that had the 2 cards that go for like 20K each? PSA.
Okay, we're talking about limited run exclusive Japanese art in cool briefcases versus mass produced, mass printed, modern day, available everywhere English cards.
One of the best cards, gold stars of all time, one of the hardest ones to get, Torchic from Team Rocket returns, EX era. That's a big, big card. That's like a 45K card.
But that was limited printing back then. So that's like
there's gonna be a hit in this set too. What if they come out with like a Giovanni and it's like a screw behind him with a big Nidoking and it's like you pull one in like every like 10 cases.
Unless it doesn't even matter. 1 in 10 cases is fine. Like hyper rare, you want a hyper rares art. I think the chances of that are worse than that. 1 in 10 cases. So I'm sorry. I don't want to be like I don't want to like.
Are you gonna open any? Will you open any?
I will open some with you if you want when you come to visit me in November. We can open some if you would like. I don't know when's coming out though.
When's it coming up there? I'm coming up there for Toronto Expo.
Yeah, so maybe we'll open some. But I just want people to kind of like tone down a little bit and don't ride the wave of nostalgia. Although some people will listen to me, there will literally be people who buy slabs and literally pallets of this stuff. But I'm just gonna harshen your buzz just a little bit. So I'm sorry.
I will say if you're buying to hold, this set, I agree with you. Like anytime people do like the hype, typically the opposite's the right move. Like I'll agree. But I will say if you own a live streaming business, if you're opening packs live anywhere, people are paying you for packs upon release. I think you're gonna make a ton of money with this set. So that would be one exception.
Okay, so we have the Rocket set. We also have the Holiday set coming out. So is this the Holiday calendar that they do every year?
I think it's like the Shining Fates, like Hidden Fates, like one of those. And so I don't know the details around it yet. I'm sure anyone with distributor access would have been able to pre-order or see it by now. I'm not as up to speed with what that set name is. I know that was talked.
Mm-hmm. I'll be honest with you. I have still not opened any 151 yet. Just still haven't done that yet. So that just kind of, and I was hyped for that set too. So most likely, unless you bring me some, I'm probably not gonna open it. Anyways, let's move on. All right, TCG Player, Japanese cards. Tell me, tell me, tell me about them.
So TCG Player, .com was purchased by eBay a couple years ago. One of the best, most liquid sites to purchase Pokemon cards. It's a place where you can get cards, of all sorts of quality and high volume. You can flip through 10 different pages of a modern card that could be a ultra rare or something that you want to chase, and you can buy it super liquidity. So to add Japanese to this is pretty insane. A lot of people, when they price cards at shows, this or that, they'll say based off TCG Player. I know some people in our hobby, they'll use Card Ladder or price charting or
Rare candy.
Rare Candy. There you go. They'll use one of the other algorithms out there. A lot of people in Raw, they almost always go to TCG Player or price charting, simply because it's just been around for as long as it has, and people usually do a percent to TCG Player. So TCG Player is at $1. People usually pay 70 to 80 cents, and it's very, very just normal to go off that. So the fact that they had Japanese cards is crazy because there's so many Japanese cards out there. There's in such high demand. The live stream platforms have so many Japanese cards flowing through them day in, day out. I don't think people realize that, like, an art rare in English that maybe $5, in Japanese is probably like 50 cents. There's like a lot of disparities like that exist. And so I'm curious at how the liquidity of Japanese cards coming to the English market on a site where there's a lot of people that want to buy cards that go to eBay. They don't go to Mercari or Buyee or Card Rush or any of these Japanese sites. They just go to eBay. They'll pay the premium, this and that. So now you're you've removed the barriers of people to buy these cards. I think you're going to see. Oh man, I don't even want to speculate because I could see a lot of different things happening. Oh man, I think it's going to be good for the hobby. I think it's going to add a lot more liquidity Japanese cards, and I think it's going to kill some people who source today, because Japanese people are going to be like, oh, I can just list TCG Player and get like my full money. Like, why not? Like, like what? So we'll see what happens. But
Zack, how do we solve this problem? It is illegal to export Japanese cards out of Japan. So what's going on here? What's going on?
I think the boundaries of country laws stop at that country's borders. I don't know. I mean, I don't know the ins and outs here. I mean, I know they're banning the boxes and stuff, but there's so many people buying cards. Like I said, I mean, it's probably gonna be harder to be a seller. But I mean, if you're getting sealed product from Pokemon and they catch you, push. I mean, I think they actually pulled back on that a little bit, but I need to think about that more if I can even respond intelligently.
I'm just being disturber. Well, anyways, moving on, sticking on with the TCG, something that I've yet to learn to actually play yet, despite you sending me that starter pack, which I really appreciate, that teach you how to play. We can remove another wall because they're actually launching Pokemon TCG Pocket, which is literally an online version of the game. No longer do people have to rely on fan-made websites and apps to play the TCG online. Currently, it has been soft launched in New Zealand, so people in New Zealand can play it early. If you create an email address in New Zealand, I'm sure that you can download it early, just like people who wanted to play Pokemon Go early. But worldwide release for that app is coming out on October 30th. So once again, it's going to be loot boxes, basically loot boxes, opening virtual packs. Cards look pretty cool online. Looks like a satisfying way to open cards. But once again, we kind of get into this murky area of placing a value on virtual goods. RIP NFTs as an example. So my first question is, since this is obviously we're not talking about vintage, we're talking about TCG playing, so playing the actual game. So there's going to be a hyper focus not on vintage, but just kind of focused on the playability of cards. The cards that are most valuable to play are the most valuable ones are going to be the ones that are the most playable ones. The question that I have is, will there be trading and selling on the app? Because it's called the trading card game. So for them to remove the trading card aspect of it would be kind of counterintuitive. But based on what I know from Nintendo, they probably will allow for trading because it doesn't make sense not to. But I don't think they will have an in-game system of being able to sell cards. I think that most likely you're gonna have, for at least for the first couple of years of this app, you're gonna have like a third-party intermediary service that will kind of like buy and sell cards for people, just so people don't kind of screw each other over and not send over what they expect. So are we seeing kind of like the potential emergence of a new market that's about to be created in our hobby?
Yeah, Pokemon's trying to break through. They're trying to constantly evolve and adjust to the market and bring some sort of new offering. And I think it's funny you kind of talked about like the trading card game, this and that. And like in my head, I'm like, the game part of it is like you play a game with people. Yes, you trade and this and that. I don't see the selling piece just because that's so fundamentally against like what Pokemon does. They like to kind of protect all the money, with themselves. They don't necessarily like to help, the LGSs or the stores, or they don't necessarily go out of their way to make things easy for everyone. They kind of let those sort of secondary markets determine themselves. And so the selling piece doesn't seem probable. I would assume trading just has to happen naturally. Getting people on the platform, I think, is huge. When another great reason to go to Worlds is we bumped into one of the people who was actually one of the illustrators for the cards, and he told me like which one of the illustrators. Like, yeah, I've already done 15 more. They haven't come out yet, but they will come out. It'll be really cool. And just the artwork and just the fact that they're animated, they come out of the screen, and like it's really really cool. I think they go a long way with it. I almost see this as like the base set, and then eventually you'll go through all the different iterations and they'll develop it into something really cool. But for now, like my gut reaction is like it just feels kind of gimmicky. It's like, you mean I open a pack and it's digital and I don't even get to rip it, and then like the cards, like I don't I I gotta see where it goes. I'm very
You've
hesitant.
never played a gacha game. That's why. If you played a gacha game, you know exactly what they're doing. There's
I have.
microtransactions to the moon. You have to be. I think you have to be to fully understand it. I think you have to be like a gamer to understand what they're going with. But just kind of shifting back again, the problem is if Nintendo doesn't take the cut of the selling aspect of it, they're just gonna leave money on the table. Someone else is gonna create that platform. Someone else is gonna like absorb like create that service and take that money. So I just feel like I know Nintendo doesn't want to act like they're being greedy, but I know for a fact that they want all the money, which we'll get to in a little bit. So I just feel like they should just like own it. Just say, yeah, we'll trade your cards for you. We'll take a small cut, and we'll just move forward. Now is the time. We're talking about Nintendo and money. So, do you know a game that was called Pocket Monster Reissue, Zach?
I think I heard of something that was in a little bit of trouble.
So basically, it is a game that blatantly stole designs from Pokemon, created their own game, called it Pocket Monster Reissue. Didn't even try to change it a little bit. You know that meme? Just like you can copy my homework, but just change it a little bit. Didn't even go through the process of changing anything at all. But anyways, their company recently settled a lawsuit for $15 million to the Pokemon company, to Nintendo. The issue is in 2022 they made $42 million on their games. So,
It's working out.
you're right. Like if you're gonna infringe on copyright, and like I guess you just have to shoot for the moon and just make enough money, so it doesn't really matter if you get sued by the founding company. That's basically plus 30 million just for the year 2022. So I don't know. And then we just kind of go on to there's this game called Pal World that came out last year, which people kind of just dubbed that Pokemon with guns, which is the exact opposite of what Nintendo's trying to foster, their IP being associated with firearms and weapons. That is currently in litigation. Not exactly sure how well that's going to go, because unlike Pocket Monster reissue who literally just stole the artwork without changing anything. Power World didn't really reuse blatantly any of the sprites or artwork from Pokemon. But yeah, just kind of like in that vein of our hobby and all things Pokemon these days.
It's crazy. I mean, like, I think of like a lot of the big banks, man. They'll make $1 billion and get fined like 10 million. They're like, all right, like we'll
Right?
keep going. Like it's working out. Like it made 42 million. They only get fined 15. I mean, I believe in disproportionate punishment. Like I feel like the punishment should go up and up and up. Like it shouldn't just be. I don't know. I don't think everything should be 1-to-1. But that's crazy. I thought it was a blatant copy right out the gate.
It might be it might be like the first settlement is a lawsuit, which sets a precedent, which then kind of is the next step, continue paying royalties based on the IP. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes in the near future. Don't mess with Nintendo or Pokemon, man. They will drop that lawsuit hammer real quick. RIP Pokemon Uranium. All right, final section of our podcast. We're gonna skip viewer questions this week just because we have a lot going on this week. We will bank questions and bring it back next week. Probably, hopefully. Anyways, let's move into Collector's Corner. I'm gonna go first because Zach has some really exciting news that he's gonna absorb. He's gonna basically take up most of the oxygen on. So my card of this week is kind of my favorite. We talked about my the card that I sold, the Zoroark card that I sold on Fanatics Premier Auction. In that vein and in that set of cards, this following card is my favorite one. This is the second grade one, and the reason why I love this card is just that I love the artwork on it. There's just something so. First off, the Zora is much cuter than the Zoroark, even though there is a Zoroark on the card. Blue sticker value much lower than the fourth grade illustration, but I find like this artwork is just very whimsical. It's very pretty. I like it a lot. I thought that it'd just be a good time to show it. These are the only 2 cards in that set that I purchased. I didn't buy the entire set. I just chose the 2 that I thought appealed to me the most, and then I chose those 2 and hit a winner on one of them, and this one just kind of like average price for, if in comparison. But yeah, if I ever do sell it, I probably will take my own advice, get it recased and reslabbed and all that good stuff. But yeah,
Hey,
I'm gonna let you take the floor. You got a lot of stuff to talk about. Your collection, transparency stuff, alpha, new ventures. So the floor is yours. Go for it.
awesome. I'll do Collector's Corner real fast. So I bought a card from a really, really good buddy of mine. It's a card I've been looking for like over probably 5-10 years, trying to complete a set. And so I'll show the back of it real fast. It is from the Dubsy collection. So Mr. Dubsy was at Worlds. He came and snuck a squat next to me while we were watching one of the final VGC. And he said, I know we've been talking about a deal. Do you want to do the deal? I traded him a card he needed from his collection that was extremely low pop, and he traded me this. It is
win.
the VS one. It's got the 008P promo. Estimated that like less than 10 copies exist. It's the 9.5. A top grade for this card. I would equate this in a PSA 9 to be similar. And it's just a stunning card.
It's big, a beautiful card. That is a massive card. That is the last card basically everyone needs to finish off the P promo set. It's kind of like fabled at this point. For the longest time, the only way to get one was, the only visible, publicly available one was the one that Scott owned. So big congratulations. That's a big card. That is big. Big card. Congrats, buddy.
Sold something I only had one of, and then I added cash on top to do it. So that's going to sound really counterintuitive to what I'm going on.
But wait. Can you divulge what the trade was? Like, you don't have to give the cash value, but what did you give up?
I traded him a no rarity Ninetales PSA 10.
Okay.
And I paid like 5 figures for that like years and years ago. So
it's a big trade. So he's probably, if he was willing to let go of that card, that means that he probably has a second 008 somewhere.
I'm not sure. We didn't ask. I know he's repositioning his Pokemon right now, so I don't know. So I don't want to speak for him, but the fact that he was willing to let that card go for one is huge, and to me is like even cooler. So I'm like, stoked to do that.
Anyways, buddy, congratulations! I'm very happy. That's the first card that
Big
you've
card.
shown in a while that I'm very excited about.
The first card you like? It's not an error card, and you're like, okay,
What
it's
is
cool.
this? No error card. All right. What else you got going on in your collection, buddy?
Yeah.
Give me the tea.
So with the new business venture, long story short, about a month or two ago, really decided to kind of add something new to my plate that I can kind of grow and build on my own. I think, if you're doing stuff yourself, it's a little bit harder. And I think there's a lot of people, a lot of friends in the hobby that have built brands and have really developed and done these great things. And so, long story short, I'm trying to build something that'll be really, really cool. We have not released the name and kind of the core operations to the public yet, but I've hired a couple people who are now on the team helping full time. We're in multiple cities at this point, kind of trying to get the framework, this and that going. And so anytime you build a new business, it requires a lot of cash and capital and inventory and things to do. And I think Tetra knows with how many times we schedule this. I think we're going 18 hours a day on like 30 days straight right now. It's like crazy. So I came to the really, really tough decision to sell part of my collection to help fund this new venture. And then my goal is to obviously buy back the liquid, parts of that, within the next like 2-3 years or so. But I think, you got to build something firm that is, high morals, high ethics. That's good for the hobby. And we're trying to do it the right way. We're doing everything by the book. Everything's being reported. Everything's being, the LLC, the business credit card. There's no personal this, that. It's literally like we're doing this the right way. And we're trying to build something that will push the hobby forward, that will really add value to people. And a lot of things we're doing are kind of behind the scenes with a lot of very, very big players in the space and helping them develop their Pokemon products and their sort of presence in the market is pretty key. So whatever we can talk about that, I'd love to talk about it, but we're still hiring more people and trying to get that going. So long story short, with all that said, there's a lot more to come, but I'm selling my collection and I'm selling it on alt. And so a lot of people are like, well, why are you selling it on alt? Why would you use alt over, Goldin or Fanatics or this or that? Well, I used to use PWCC quite a bit. I had millions of dollars with them and I did a lot of volume and this and that with them. But they, have made some mistakes with their financial programs, didn't really pan out that well. I think alt is basically operating as a vault, an auction service, as a bank. There's a number of things, and I think they have extremely strong controls in place just to make sure they're doing everything the right way as far as just regulations and not over leveraging and kind of assuring that the buyers are this or that, banning people. Just there's so many little things that they're doing that when I see that the way they execute, I really, really like it. I think alt performs really well over the $1,000 mark. I think they still struggle a little bit on like the sub $100 mark. So I don't think they're the end all be all just yet. And so I felt that they've been really good to me, and I want to push the collection through them. So we'll include a link here or something. But the auctions go live, or they're already live, but they start ending on the 3rd, October 3rd, and then over the next 4 weeks they continue to end. So I think like 14 of my first ed base 10s are going to end on the 3rd Thursday. And then, I have a full crystal set, I have a full shining set, first edition and unlimited, all PSA 10s going live. I have the full Masaki set, including Gengar, Alakazam. Those are all being auctioned on the 3rd. And then I have some other cards that are also going to be auctioned. And I will reveal them now. So Tetra, you're aware that I have these cards. I don't know if anyone else is aware about this. So all of this prototype stuff going on, I've really tried to remove myself from the Instagram piece, from the E4 piece, from all this and that, because anything I say is inherently biased. I made an offer to buy these prototypes at around $35K to $25K a card earlier this year. There were some contingencies with that offer that Long story short, it was pulled out from under me, and I was not able to execute that. I'm very happy that that happened, simply because it seems like the price has gone down. I'm disappointed because there are a lot of cool things in that deal that I really was looking forward to. So what I did is I ended up the source ended up reaching out to me and made contact and offered me a set to buy. And I ended up going through and buying a beta set of the 151. I bought an extra set of EVs. I bought an alpha, or not an alpha, black and white set as well. And so I've got like probably $1 million into the prototypes as is. And so I am getting into the rut of this new business we have going on. And I'm realizing all the pressure and all the things that need to happen, and just the operating capital, the rotating inventory, just the people, this and that. And I've come to the decision that selling the prototypes is the right move to keep the business going forward. And that sort of happened over the last month or so. And so all 151 of the prototypes, except for one of them sold privately, but they're all going to be auctioned on alt. And so I know everyone's like, well, we could have a long conversation about the prototypes and this, that, but it's one of those things that's like, I almost expect to like break even or lose money on these cards, because my average cost in these cards is higher than what the average sales are for the lower end cards. But I think it's the right decision to just kind of push the business forward. I do think I would love to maybe buy specific Pokemon prototypes in the future, like Jolteon or Eevee or some of those. Like getting a full set again, it's like, if you have that money ready, do you make that same decision again? It's kind of cool. You've owned them. I've held 3 full sets at this point. I'm aware of more, but I think there's only 3 sets that are in the market. So I don't think those are the same 3 sets. But anyway, long story short, the prototypes are coming to market. So surprise.
So the ones that are on alt, the prototype ones, those are your cards.
The ones at auction ending on the 3rd, and then the certain numbers are 001 through 151. That was a special request I made to CGC just so that they lined up exactly with the Pokedex number. Those are
cool.
all available.
That's
I thought it was kind of cool.
That's cool.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to get PSA to do it, and then PSA ended up not authenticating the cards. So,
yeah.
It wasn't
as they do. As they do.
Yeah. And it's just PSA's thresholds for this and that are like crazy. And so it's not that they thought the cards were inauthentic. It's just that they didn't think they had enough information to fully authenticate. So that was kind of tough news, because I was really hoping that putting them in a PSA case would have given the market a lot of confidence, this and that. So anyway, it's hard to talk about prototypes when you have this perceived bias, but I like them enough that I put my money behind them and I bought them. And now it's like this odd piece where you're selling them, but it's I don't know. It's hard to explain, but it's I'll tell you at the very end if I made money or lost money. I expect to lose maybe like 50K or so if the numbers way they are now, but I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, it's too bad we don't have a podcast where we can talk about the prices of Pokemon cards, right?
We just gotta have it, right? I'm so sorry, man.
Well, I wish you the best of luck. I hope that you at least break even, because that's what we all hope to do when we try to do new ventures. And that I know you have to. I know that personally you've been very stressed out these last couple of weeks. It's been tough to see. As me personally, I'm watching you struggle doing like 18-hour days. But I'm really hoping that all the work that you're putting on into this new venture works out for you, because I know that everything that you do will long run be the best for the hobby. But it's coming to a head soon, right? We'll find out what you're up to, and we'll find out how your auctions end.
So for more context for people, let me just give one quick example here. One of my key relationships, like business to business deals I have going on Saturday, they came to me and they said, Zach, you're doing great work. We love everything you're doing. We love the output you have. I have 2 specific people hired just for this task. And they said, we want to 5X what you're bringing us to the table. And the 5X is already like a crazy amount of volume. It's a crazy amount of sourcing, this and that. I'm hiring like a key sourcer just for Japanese cards, where all he will do all day, every day is buy Japanese cards. Like that's all he will do. And just for this one project, for this one business. And so it's like the opportunities I have, since I've sort of become a little bit more independent in my dealings, I've sort of exploded, and we're trying to do everything the right way. And when you have someone that could arguably give you a life changing sort of deal, say that they want to 5x it, you sort of reprioritize everything. And so I am trying to just do the best that I can, and some of these decisions are not made abruptly. They're made with a lot of careful thought, and I just want to see this hobby do better long term, and I think we can do it together. But I'm just doing the best that I can. That's all I can say.
And we want to do the best that we can to bring you guys a regularly scheduled podcast. But things are happening, as Zach has noted. But we are going to try our best moving forward for more regular schedule. So we'll find out. We'll find out how Zach's business much is doing, how his auctions end. Basically in the next episode, whenever that's going to be, hopefully not too long. But thank you everyone for being patient with us and reaching to the end here. And hopefully you guys enjoy the podcast, and we'll bring you another one very, very soon. Thank you, and everyone have a good one.
See you guys. Take care.